All right, well, very good. Thank you, Tim. It's an honor and a privilege, really, to be here today. And what we're going to talk about a little bit is the measure of success, right? Because all of you, I'm sure, measure success in a different way, and as you go through life, you're going to change the way that you measure success. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of my background. I'm going to share with you some of the people that God has put into my life in my journey. But then I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story that significantly changed the person that's standing in front of you today. I'm going to tell you a story that significantly changed the way I measure success, okay? So let's get started. I'm going to start off. This is my wife, Sheila. Sheila's here today with me. And you know, Sheila and I have been married for 39 years, a long time, probably longer for her, yeah. And we actually got married when we were not that much older than each and every one of you. We got married between our junior and our senior year at college, so we went to college together. And you know, God has blessed me in a lot of different ways, but nothing as special as my wife, Sheila. She's everything to me. She completes who I am. She's made me who I am. And God put her in my life knowing the journey that we had in front of us as a family and as a couple. And very, very special, Sheila. I have an amazing family as well. This is my kids. My oldest is Lindsay, who's up on the left. Next is my daughter, Jordan, on the right. And the middle is my son, Cameron. You know, I was born and raised in a small town in Iowa, Pella, Iowa. And I'll never forget the day that my parents bought a farm just outside of Pella, just on the outskirts of Pella. And this is my dad. For reference purposes, I'm the shirtless wonder in the middle, right? But you know, I'll never forget, my dad used that farm to teach us boys the value of a hard day's work. And I mean a hard day's work. And the use of common sense to solve problems. My dad used to love watching us boys go out and try to do something on the farm. He'd sit back and he'd always laugh at us, and then he'd come and show us how to do it the right way, right? Which is always very, very special. I went to school right there in my hometown in Pella at Central University of Iowa. And by the time Sheila and I were ready to graduate college and leave the borders of Iowa and go pursue our careers, I knew one thing for sure, that no one would work harder than me. I would work harder than anyone else because, you know, I always thought I had to because I was never the smartest kid in the class. I never was the smartest. In fact, that was my wife, Sheila. She was always the smartest person in the class and always got better grades than me on the exams. But, you know, I learned to use those problem-solving skills that I learned on the farm in the corporate world. And that willingness to work hard and do everything that was needed in order to climb that corporate ladder, to be ready for that next promotion, to continue to expand the size of my paycheck. And I learned that hard work gets you places. And where it got me was Wall Street. New York City, a long ways away from that South Side farm in Pella, Iowa. It's 2001. I'm now 43 years old, and I'm the managing director and the head of information technology at Morgan Stanley. My office is on the 67th floor of the South Tower of the World Trade Center. I am literally on top of the world. I have made it. I'm a true success. At least I thought I was. On September 11th, 2001, I have a normally scheduled meeting with my boss, John Schaefer. And you know, John called me the night before and he said, you know, Steve, we want to change the location of our meeting. And we're going to take it from the World Trade Center and we need to meet in another building that we had up on Times Square. So the morning of September 11th, 2001, 18 years ago, I made my way into the lobby area of the World Trade Center complex and into the lobby area of the South Tower and took the elevator up to the 67th floor, up to my office. And I started packing the papers I was going to need for the meeting that was now scheduled across town. And then something happened that I've never been able to explain, and it sounds crazy even when I try to explain it today. But something told me I needed to go buy a new tie. And as crazy as that sounds, something told me I needed to go buy a new tie. So I packed my papers up a little earlier than I needed to, and I got in the elevator bank on the 67th floor, and I went down to the sublevels of the World Trade Center where there was a mall. And I went to the tie rack, and I bought the tie that I'm wearing today. But you know, I never got to wear this tie that day, because moments later, hijackers on American Airlines Flight 11 flew the plane into the North Tower. Now, no one can describe what those first moments felt like. You know, there was panic and there's fear and confusion because nobody really knew what was going on. Was this an accident? Was this a terrorist attack? You know, those first few moments were just filled with chaos. You know, at Morgan Stanley, we had 3,700 people in the World Trade Center complex, many of them in the IT department, reporting to me in the South Tower. And moments after the plane had hit the North Tower, the Port Authority came over to the intercom system in the South Tower to tell everybody to stay put. Nobody was to leave the building because they were afraid if people went out into the lobby or into the plaza area, they'd be hit by the debris coming off the North Tower. But you know, at Morgan Stanley, we decided differently. We decided everybody needed to get out of the building. Everybody needed to evacuate immediately. So 2 by 2, our people entered the stairwell in the South Tower and started a long journey down the tower and into the lobby to escape the building. 19 minutes after the plane hit the North Tower, the second plane hit. This time, it's the South Tower, 4 stories above where my office was located. You know, despite all our best efforts that day in getting everybody out of the building, we lost 7 employees. And even today, after 18 years, I think about the what ifs. What if the location of my meeting had not changed? What if I didn't go buy this tie? What if we hadn't decided to evacuate everybody out of the building? Coming out of the World Trade Center, you saw things you should never see, and for sure will never forget. Myself, along with a number of technology people, made our way to a predefined recovery center that we had north of the World Trade Center, about 10 blocks at Varick and Canal. As we started gathering in that recovery center, a number of our people were covered with the dust that was coming off the World Trade Center. A number of our people were wounded. Everybody was in shock. Those first moments in the recovery center were just filled with uncertainty and emotions, but at least we thought we were safe. But you know, those feelings of safety didn't last long, because after a couple hours in the recovery center, the police came into our recovery center and said everybody needed to get out. We need to evacuate our recovery center, because there was a rental truck parked out front and they thought there was a bomb inside. So now we're back out on the street looking for a place of safety, and a number of us decided we needed to get off the island. We needed to get out of Manhattan. And we knew there was another building for Morgan Stanley in Brooklyn. So we went back across Ground Zero and over the Brooklyn Bridge and into Brooklyn, where we spent the night. The next morning, we got back into our recovery center. And I was placed in charge of the recovery efforts. And the task and the mission ahead of us was virtually impossible, right? Our headquarters had been completely destroyed and everything in it. In order for us to be ready for business, we were going to have to recreate almost everything, including our computer systems. And since it had been decided that the markets would open on September 17th, we had 6 days to accomplish the impossible, right? So the measure of success was clear. We had 6 days to get everything ready before they rang the bell to open the markets, despite the fact that we're working in a makeshift warehouse and all of our people had just lived through a horrific, life-changing experience. So from that day forward, we started working around the clock. We'd work until we couldn't work any longer and then just get a few moments of sleep right at our desks and then get up and start over again. To motivate the team and to rally the troops, I had them build a makeshift bell. A bell to resemble the bell that they would ring when they opened the market. And we took that bell, which is here today, and we took that bell and we put it in the middle of our recovery center, and we hung an American flag above it, and we used that bell as our symbol of what we needed to accomplish. We used that bell as our symbol of hope. You know, I'll never forget the morning of September 17th. Everyone in the recovery center rallied and gathered around the bell, nearly 600 people. And we rang the bell that morning because we had accomplished the impossible, right? And everything that God had prepared me for throughout my life paid off. Work harder than everybody else, use common sense to solve problems, and have faith that God is in control. But you know, something else was happening during that moment. Everybody in the recovery center was full of pride of what we'd accomplished. Yet everybody in the recovery center was starting to come to grips with the reality of what we had lived through, right? There wasn't a dry eye in the recovery center. Everybody was hugging and embracing each other, a number of people on their knees, overcome with exhaustion. Now, I don't know if you've ever had a moment in your life where you knew that from that moment forward, everything was going to be different. This was that moment for me. As the chaos of the week began to fade, one thing became perfectly clear. And that was all that really mattered was my people, right? No longer was it going to be important what my people could do for me, but what I could do for my people. I knew that from that moment forward, I would become a different person. I would become a different leader. I would change the way I would measure success. In the days that followed, our people really struggled. You know, coming to grips with the reality of what they lived through, what they had seen, was just a crushing blow to every one of them. I would start each day going down a long aisle in the middle of the recovery center, and people would come to the center, to the middle, just for a word of encouragement, for a hug or an embrace, or a quick prayer, just to get through the day. We wallpapered the walls of our recovery center with these big white pieces of paper, and our people used that paper to go up and express their feelings. We brought in full-time psychiatrists to spend time in the facility with our people, both on an individual basis and in group settings, just to deal with the emotions that they had lived through. You know, we were in that recovery center for over a year. And each day, we would gather around the bell. And each day, we would ring that bell. If someone had a particularly good day, we asked them to ring the bell. If somebody had a particularly bad day, we'd have them ring the bell. You know, I know that God put me into the World Trade Center. God put me in the World Trade Center that day and prepared me since I was that young boy on the farm in Iowa to deal with the days and the events that followed 9/11. I learned through that experience that life is more about what you give than you receive. It's about being kind to everyone and helping those that can't help themselves, right? So what if we started living life measuring success based on how well we serve others? What if we started taking advantage of the opportunities that God puts into our path every single day to make a difference in people's lives? If it's that person you bump into on the street, if it's that person that's standing in line with you at the cafeteria or in the grocery store, or if that person that you work with every day or go to school with every day. Yeah, have faith, that God will help you make a difference. What if we stop living life with our heads down, focused on what's in it for us, oftentimes in our cell phones, and decided to lift our heads and set a goal to live life by giving more than you're receiving? So I challenge you to start today. Before you go to sleep tonight, make a difference in someone's life. Be kind to someone. It doesn't need to be something big, right? It's just a friendly hello, a nice word, right? A pat on the back, or just open the door for someone. And then have faith that God will only know the impact that your acts of kindness will have. And then make it a habit. Do it the next day and the next day. And I promise you, it'll be a path towards unmeasurable joy. Now, you're all young, right? You have an amazing life ahead of you. But I encourage you to live that life with a goal to serve others and to give more than you receive. And I promise you, you will experience the true measure of success. So thank you, and God bless you all.